What's going on, everybody? We are back here again for another. Excuse me, this isn't a software development 2 class. This is my software configuration and. Excuse me, I'm drawing the blank on the name here. I'm gonna pull his full name up. I don't give it the incorrect nomenclature. So it is software installation, configuration, and testing. That is the class. It is CEN-4802C. And today, what we are doing is we are creating a unit test specifically for a program. Now, I have already started this on my own. Specifically, last semester in my software development 1 class, I was in charge of a inventory management system, and part of that design of that application, I went ahead and created some J tests for it. We are going to use that inventory management system as the basis for it. The testing has been done by me. As you can see down here, there are some tests I already ran from it, but we're going to go ahead and run them again while we're on camera so we can see that they all did in fact pass. So let's go ahead and close out of that. But basically, we just want to what J tests or unit tests in general do is we want to be able to test all of the functionality of our programming. So we create a test unit. In this case, it's a JUnit type test that I will be using. To ensure all functionalities of this app are met. Now, there are several functionalities that this is going to make sure that it is running. As you can see here, we have our inventory manager test. This acts as a test environment for it. Versus our normal actual inventory management main program here. Okay? So in this program, just want to make sure it can do the core functionalities, so it should be able to see a new inventory. It should be able to create a new bracelet. It should be able to remove a bracelet. It should be able to update a bracelet that already exists there. We have all these different tests. So new inventory should be empty on initialization. Then we're going to have the test for add a new bracelet. From there, we're going to run the prevent adding a bracelet with the duplicate ID because we want to test the functionality of whether or not it's going to catch the system if it tries to break it. So we purposely put it in there. So that's our third test there. Next, we should be able to remove our bracelets successfully. Next, after that, we have our second test, which is designed to catch any breaking of the program. The next test indicates that they should not be able to remove a bracelet that does not exist. So let's say if, the bracelet is listed as 001 Will Buyers, and, there's a quantity of 5 of them, and the price is $15 per bracelet, right? Well, let's say we removed Will Buyers because it had sold out and we no longer want to make them due to maybe the beads that we were using being discontinued or the jewelry we were using being discontinued. So we go to remove it from our system. Okay, well, we removed it, but we derped. Memory issues happen, So we try to remove the bracelet again because we're unsure, correct? Well, this test is designed entirely around that scenario to let you know, hey, that bracelet doesn't exist. That is what the try-catch does in the main program. So we designed this test to trigger that try-catch, to make sure that it understands that it cannot delete a bracelet without, if it's not there. Another test we have here is to update the bracelet's quantity amount. So there are further things upon that. We need to make sure that, first of all, that it's not updating it to negative numbers. So we did put in a rule in there that it cannot be negative numbers, so they have to be real numbers. Since it's a quantity, it's in stock, you can't have a negative stock of something unless you oversell, which is not good. But in a perfect scenario, we do the 1-for-1. Once quantity hits 0, then it's done. We have a similar rule with no negative numbers for the currency, for the price of that, but we'll get down to that. The next test after that is it can't update a bracelet that doesn't exist, correct? So this test here is to validate whether or not the system can break it by updating a bracelet that doesn't exist. If Will Byers is no longer in our system, we can't update the price for it. We can't update whether or not it's in and out of stock. So we need to make sure that the system cannot break itself by trying to update a bracelet that has been removed from the system. We have our next test here is we cannot update a invalid quantity. This is, as I mentioned before, can't do any negative numbers. This basically, try catches them and says it must be a valid non-negative integer, and then they get an error message, and it lets them know that the quantity cannot be changed. I do apologize if I'm stuttering. I do have a stammer. We've got a few more tests here because we did run a whole bunch of tests for this. I wanted to make sure every aspect of the functionality of this app is working as corrected. And we'll go through and I'll show you the application running as intended, and then I'll go and show you the tests running doing those same functions, okay? So we're going to make sure, also there's a few more tests here. I put in a whole test. I thought of every scenario. This next test here is that it should auto change the status to, let's say the quantity was 5, right? And you sold 5 bracelets. Well, now you're sold out. Well, when you hit the quantity to 0, it should have a status next to it to indicate whether or not it is in stock or out of stock. If it is out of stock, it should change that status once you hit, let's say you hit the stock as 0. You update the quantity of the stock to 0 for a bracelet. It should automatically switch that bracelet from in stock to out of stock, and that's what this test does. It verifies that it can, in fact, verify that it's updating the quantity to out of stock, or excuse me, updating the status to out of stock once the quantity hits 0. And then finally, the opposite end. Let's say something was sold out, however, you made more bracelets, and you update the quantity to, like, let's say 15, as the example right here. It would change it from out of stock back into in stock. So these are all the tests that should be done successfully. So let's go ahead here real quick. We're just going to go over and run the main app real quick so you can see what that all looks like. Okay, so we're going to just put in the file path of my database real quick. That's a good question as to where that file is. It's in my source folder. Don't mind me here. I'm just going to go into my source folder real quick for this project. CC Candy Corner, and I have a inventory DB file. So that's what we're going to go get real quick. And we need the directory to it. That's what you're seeing here. So bear with me. Copy. / and then, nope, sorry, it's backslash. And boom. I should open. As you can see here, we have the program that is running. As you can see, we have some stuff that's already in stock here. Again, a lot of this isn't necessarily needed for the program, but I just want to show you what the program looks like intended as functional, and then to show you the tests doing them properly. Okay, so as you can see, we have our list of bracelets here. Various quantities. You can sort by them. You can sort by description, the price, whether they're out of stock or in stock, etc. I prefer to sort by ID, just for the sake of this. Okay. So we can see that they're all displayed. We see some of them are in stock, some of them are out of stock. Let's go ahead and test our will buyers, okay? So we're going to update our will buyers. Its ID number here is 021. And now we're going to pull up a window for the bracelet. Now let's say earlier I was talking to you, I updated the quantity from 15 to 0, okay? Now you can see it says it updated it to out of stock. Let's go ahead and change it again. We're going to go ahead and update 021. We're going to update you back to 15. Now you can see now it changed back into stock. Let's go ahead and update it. 021. Let's try to put in a negative number. So negative 15.99. I want to put an extra period in there. And as you can see here, there's our try-catch error. It can be valid non-negative number. So as you can see here, the core functionality around editing, modifying, adding, and deleting these bracelets, it all works on the back end once the program runs. But let's see how it runs once we run the testing environment. So let's go ahead and exit out of that. We're going to stop that here. We're going to go in our inventory. We're going to do our inventory manager test here. Now this is going to run all of our tests. So, yep. We're going to close out of that, and now we're just going to go run our unit tests here. And as you can see down here, pull it up a little bit more. It ran the tests that I had set up. So each one of these showed that it passed successfully. So it was able to add a new bracelet. It was able to generate a low stock report. This is one of the tests I forgot to mention. When bracelets go under stock, of a threshold of 5 for the creation of this app, I had a threshold where it sets once it falls below that, if I generate a low stock report, it will pull all of the inventory that shows below 5 and lets me know which ones I need to maybe, replace the bracelets for or make more bracelets for. So it tested that the inventory should be empty on initialization, which it does. It does that through non-accessing of the DB file. So basically, it does all this through the command line interfaces with my main program. It does it through like a Java FX like GUI, where it asks you to specifically point to a database file. This test specifically, since we're running it through the back end here, we're not using a database file for it. We need to make sure that it's creating a new inventory each time, like a new list, if you will. This is only for the testing, just to verify that the functionality works properly. But as you can see here, all of these tests that I designed, prevent adding a bracelet with a duplicate ID, prevent removing a non-existent bracelet, prevent updating with invalid quantity, updating a non-existent bracelet, removing an existing bracelet, updating an existing bracelet's quantity from, negative to positive. And then we need to make sure there's an affirmation for both of these saying that they auto-updated their tests, which, as you can see here, does work as intended. And all of the tests that I have run have successfully completed. As for this this assignment, I believe that's it. We were supposed to live capture the tests that we had created and showing off that it had worked in a development environment. They needed us to do the audio recording over it to make sure that we're explaining what our code is, what the system does, generally how it works in practice. I believe I've done that. I've spoke to you about what the main application can do and shows you what the main application can do once it's running, but I've also shown you what those tests do on the back end using those same functionalities for the same program. Anywho, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye. Ja matane.